You know a series is good, guys, when you can have an entire episode basically about a side character and it be just as compelling as any other episode in the show. Welcome back to the channel, guys, and today we have episode 9 of Ranking of Kings, and it's quite a good one, actually, you know? I thought we would carry over from what happened in the previous episode, but no, we didn't. And that's okay. This episode was very good. And we got to see a side of some of our characters that I don't think we've seen before yet. And that's always a good thing to flush these characters out, you know? It kind of sucks when a show focuses just on the main character for the entire time. And then the side characters quite literally get pushed to the side. So I think this episode was a great change of pace. So let's get into it and talk about it. Now, this episode primarily focuses on one, I don't remember what they're called, but one of the king's right-hand men. He had 4 of them. Apis was one, Domas is another one, Bepin is one, and this episode we got to talk about Dorshe. Weird name, I know, it sounds Swedish, but Dorshe. I'm butchering it probably, but we got to talk about him, who was the first spear of the king, we found out. And he got replaced by Apis, actually. We find that out today because, you see, we get a little backstory into him. And to see how he became Queen Hilling's, basically personal assistant. Bodyguard, if you will. Because he is. He is bodyguard. But no, we get a little insight into that. King Boss, in the past, actually assigned him to Queen Hilling. And with a very strange question, I might add, too. He assigned him to be her bodyguard, asking him, see if the queen is worth it. Which, you would think for a husband to say that about his wife, that's kind of head-scratching. But he did. He assigned Dorshe, whatever you want to call him, to be Queen Hilling's bodyguard. And of course he's reluctant at first because he was a warrior first and foremost. He was the spear of the king at one point. So obviously this is not his forte, dealing with women and children. But he does. And their relationship is rocky at first, to say the least. She basically pushes him away, kind of like how we see Boche pushing her away in the early parts of our episode. Because you see, she just considers him a nuisance at first, which rightfully so. You're just assigned someone out the blue to apparently look after your life and the life of your kids, you know? So of course you're going to be hesitant at first. You got to make sure they're fit. And like I said, it starts off a bit rocky, as every relationship does. But over time, you can see a bond forming between him and Queen Hilling. To the point that in our previous episode, where we saw she finally was able to reconcile with Boche, and they became closer, we see that ever so slowly, him and Queen Hilling were getting closer together too. That she was starting to rely and trust on him more. And we see that in this episode when King Boss's assassination attempt actually takes place. And we see Dorshe fighting very valiantly. Holy crap. They did a great job on the animation in this episode, too. This show, at least so far, isn't some super action show or anything like that, you know? It's not really about that, but we had a really good scene, honestly, against these monsters that Miranjo and Boss sent to assassinate Queen Hilling. And I gotta say, he put up a hell of a fight. You know, and he's kind of cool. He's so strong, he busted his steel armor off, which is crazy to think about. But he fought to his bitter end, basically. And he was able to take them out and stop the assassination attempt. And we see in a flashback, actually, that Boss had complete faith in him to do this. He even said he was the right man for the job, so I don't know. This whole episode, this whole series as a whole really just makes us question Boss as a character as well. What happened with him? Like, why is he being the way he is? In the flashbacks, he's portrayed as a completely different character than we see. And that's apparent, actually, when we find out later in the episode, when he finds out that the assassination attempt fails, he feels nothing. In fact, he decides to dance with Miranjo instead, which that's a whole nother topic to get into. That she apparently has a doll that she can project her spirit into to move around with, which I guess that's how she's supposed to look. So I guess we kind of got a face reveal in this episode, I suppose. Which really makes me think, like, what is she doing? Because in this episode, she seemed ecstatic to be dancing with him, which makes me believe that she has a crush on him. Which makes sense, you know, because in our previous episodes, we saw that she's been with Boss since, like, the very beginning, basically. Since the very beginning. Way before he was a king, she was together with him. Through then, so they must have a deep history. And to me, at least, it looks like she likes him and wants to be with him. She wants to be the new queen. That's what I'm getting. That's what I interpret from it. I don't know if that's the case, per se, but that's how I interpret it. Just how the way she's acting and all that. And we see that her and Boss do have a deep connection, a deep bond. Because he's there for her, too. I don't know if it's love with him, because he's clearly scheming things on the side, but I don't know. It's really a head scratcher. Like, what is Boss's end game? Because I feel like we kind of got a glimpse of Miranjo's end game in this episode. I think her end game is to be together with Boss, but what is his end game? That is still a mystery that we have left unturned. That stone has not been turned just yet, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But let's get back to Dorshe, because it turns out he did not die against these animals. Queen Hiling actually saves him, showing the bond that they formed yet again. And she informs Dorshe, after saving him, of course, that she wants to go against King Boss to get Dyda back, which is a whole thing entirely. She quite literally storms into the throne room and threatens this man to his face, like, what is your goal here, Boss? Which is what we all want to know, honestly. I want to know what his goal is, because he's the most enigmatic, and he's the biggest enigma in this show so far, as I mentioned earlier. But yeah, she storms in there to talk to him and demand Dyda back. And while she's there, we see Dyda screaming out from inside of Boss, and we see that she can hear it. Which, that's a whole nother can of worms we're opening. That's a whole nother question we have to ask. Like, how can she hear this? How can she hear inside of his body? Is she listening to his heart or something? Like, literally listening to his heart? Not metaphorically, like, literally? I don't know, that's a whole head scratcher. It just really makes you think, like, how does this body possession thing work if you can hear the person inside who you're supposedly taking over? Like, that doesn't seem quite effective to me. I don't know. Just makes you think, but she's worked up, and she even attempts to assassinate Boss right then and there to get Dyda back after discovering that he's inside. And she, of course, gets stopped by Dorshe, who realizes that this is not the time for this. Which, rightfully so, it's not, you know? Even if he did take over the body, you don't want to stab Dyda's body to try to get him back. That seems a little counterintuitive. And he even mentions that. So he actually knocks her out so she wouldn't do anything else that could jeopardize something. And we get a little moment with Boss and Dorshe, which just makes you think, like, what side is this guy really on? Like, what is his real end game? Because we get a flashback to him looking in the mirror and seeing Boche. So, makes me think he's plotting something. I think I have a general idea of what it might be, but we'll discuss that another time. But he even tells Dorshe, like, if you want to protect her and make sure she's not killed, you have to leave the kingdom now and bide your time. Because he even flat out tells them, like, Lady Miranjo's next assassination attempt will not fail if you stay here. So he flat out just warns them, like, if you want to save her life, you need to leave now. So I assume they're going to leave now, but what is he thinking? I just don't know. He's the biggest mystery. What does he have planned for Boche as well? You know, so clearly he's a part of the plan now that he figured it out. So, like, what is his end game? But yeah, we had a very interesting episode. Like I said at the beginning, I think it's good when a show can focus on, like, one of its side characters and be just as good. You know, he's the only character we really haven't gotten any screen time with. We've gotten screen time with Hiling, with Apis, with Bippin, and a lot with Doma. So it's good that Dorshe was able to have some screen time in this episode. He's a pretty good character, I gotta say. I'm glad he didn't die, honestly. That would have been... He would have went out like a boss, to be fair, like a G. But, nah, I'm happy he's still around, you know? Someone's got to protect Hiling. She clearly has a pretty short temper. Rightfully so. Her kid was stolen, but you know what I mean. But yeah, this was a good episode, you know? It was a good change of pace. Like I said, I like when shows can do this. That shows that they have a rich cast of characters that isn't just carried by the MC. But I'd like to know what you guys thought about this episode in the comments down below. Let me know. You like Dorshe as a character? You think Hiling was justified trying to assassinate Boss? I personally do in that situation, but let me know how you guys feel in the comments. But yeah, guys, I think that'll be it for today's episode, honestly. You know, I'm super excited. Like I say all the time, I gotta stop myself from watching another episode right away every time I do this. It's kind of hard because now the show's starting to get really good. We're starting to get into the meat and potatoes of the story. And just even more questions get asked every episode, man. We answer one, we get 5 more. Like, where is Dido really? Like, he's trapped inside of Boss's heart, but I don't know. There's got to be a reason why Queen Hiling was able to hear him. They were able to communicate with each other even though he wasn't even in his own body anymore. There's got to be a reason for that. And I'm sure we'll dive into that real soon. But until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And yeah, just deuces. And I hope you guys have a blessed day.